for joining us for week 2 of our series, Rumbling with Racism. For many of us, myself included, what you're about to hear will be tough to take in. As we mentioned last week, hard things are not fun, and very rarely are we ever fully prepared or ready to do the hard things set before us. As a church, we are committed to doing the hard work to better understand what it's like for our Black brothers and sisters each and every day. Today, you will hear from a man who shares his experiences and his feelings of living and working as a Black man in America. Today, I am asking that we enter this time as a listener and as a student, not as a knower. As we enter this time together, I ask that you and I commit once again to rumbling. We're ready to rumble together when we're willing to lean into vulnerability, when we're willing to stay curious and generous, when we're willing to stick with the messy middle of problem identification and solving. And as you'll hear today, Jamon is about to raise some very messy topics, and yet they cannot go unaddressed or unmentioned if we really want to know what it's like to be a Black man in America. We are ready to rumble when we are fearless in owning our part, and when we're willing to listen with the same passion with which we want to be heard. With that being said, let's get ready to rumble. All right. Well, today I have the honor and privilege of introducing to everybody Jamon Alexander. And I've known Jamon for the last year. We've worked together at Turning Point. Jamon has a similar passion as I do of really caring for the young people of our city. And we have just been blessed as a church to have him join us at Turning Point, mentoring some of our young boys and soon to be young men. And so before we get into some of the hard questions that I'm going to ask Jamon today, Jamon, will you just share a little bit with us, a little bit about you, a little bit about your family, where you grew up, and then just share a little bit about your career.
Jamon Alexander, I born and raised in Rochester, New York. Grew up on the Southwest Side, grew up on Reynolds Street. Very poor neighborhood, but was rich in value when it came to a village taking care of its own. And there were many instances where, I can remember just guys that maybe if not doing what they were supposed to do, selling drugs, whatever the case may be, but they were a positive role model of what not to do. And they voiced that, and they were kind of instrumental in my path of growing up. I'm a product of the city school district. I graduated from East High School. I went and furthered my educational career, going to Albert State, receiving my associates, and then I went to Buffalo I finished off at Buffalo to finish my bachelor's and, my master's. I've been in the field of counseling and since 99. And I'm rich in the experience. I'm rich in, what I do for the youth. I'm well invested. I think this is more so of my passion and my gift, more so than a job. And it just gives me great pleasure to do that. And as far as my role, now and what I do now, I'm a fatherhood coordinator at Healthy Baby Network. And my job is to support the plight of fathers and father figures by any means necessary. And we're currently in our 6-week 24/7 class curriculum. We're currently in the 5th week, and I'm so excited because it's the first of its kind. And we're changing lives, and that's what I'm about.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for what you do. I was just thinking about even yesterday when we were at the center, right? We did an activity with the kids about what their view of fathers is. And we had 4 things of where they could put their Post-it note. Is your father absent? Is your father loving, a role model, or disciplinarian? And a majority of them, alarming so, but no
Right.
surprise to you and I, unfortunately, was that they put that their father was absent. And that just goes to show the importance of your work. And as we both know, that's not what God intended for fathers to be absent. So thank you for your work of really helping to come alongside fathers, which certainly in return helps children in our neighborhood to grow up. So, well, let's dig in a little bit with some questions for you. My first question for you is that as you reflect on the many years of work, can you give us any examples of instances where you felt you were treated unfairly as a person of color?
I'll go to the villa. I'll go to St. Joseph's Villa, and my supervisor came to me. I'll never forget, and I had got a promotion, and he said to me, my supervisor was white, and when I came in, and I'll never forget, I was more educated than my supervisor, but I didn't have the experience. So immediately, I was told by some close friends that, you're going to be looked at as a threat. And I didn't understand what that meant coming straight out of college. I just was like, well, if I'm good enough for the job, I just do my job and go home. But, politics don't work like that. You know what I mean? It's a jungle out here for a Black man because he has to adapt. And just like he's in a jungle. And, you have men that really just stay under the radar because they don't want any problems. And it takes years of experience to understand why Black men move like that. So the instance was very, very cut and dry. I walked into the office and he says, congratulations, you're somebody now. And so I said, well, thank you, but I've always been somebody. Well, and his response was, well, you know what I mean. And I said, no, I don't know what you mean because I'm lost. But that's, in my mind, that's white privilege saying to you, you're somebody now because of a promotion. And it was so natural for him to say that, he didn't even realize what he was saying. And that instinct, that was the kind of the light bulb going off in my mind that says, my friend was right. You know what I mean? It is a jungle out here, and it kind of just prepped me on stuff to come, and being prepared for that, and how you have to, you're just being taught you can't do what your counterparts do. You don't have that privilege to do that. John can be 15, 20 minutes late, but you can't be 15, 20 minutes late. You know what I mean? So it was just I think that was just I say that because that was the first time it really hit me. And then that kind of, it will always stick out. And that's something that I'm going to share with my kids as well. What would you say are some of the challenges or adversity that you have faced as a Black man in the workforce? I think just having to, like I said, just having to know you have to work harder. You have to work harder because of your color. And everything has to be sharp because of your color. Like, you are expected to overachieve at all aspects because of your color. But at the same time, understand that you may not get the recognition that you may deserve because of your color. So you do the work, but you may not get the recognition for doing the work. You're a highly educated man. Did you ever have this feeling of, if only I do this, if I only go this far, if I go this far in the education field, or if I rise to this occasion, then I will be seen as worthy of, as my counterparts? Or have you always felt like no matter what you do, no matter how much education, no matter how good, successful you are in the workforce, you'll never be seen at the same level? I'll never be seen as the same level. It's not going to happen. It doesn't matter how much that I achieve, how much that I do, I will always be looked at as a Black man. Changing gears a little bit, but somewhat along the same lines.
as a father raising two young Black men, what would you say are some of the biggest lessons that you are forced to teach your sons that would differ from a white male raising their son?
I think more so the legal aspect of it. I have to prepare them that if the incident will come to where they may be confronted by law enforcement, and how to kind of navigate themselves through that, because it's a different scenario. You can go through it all day, but until it happens and you're actually put in that situation, it's totally different. And I don't want anything. My fear is, in the back of my mind, I think this is a fear of every Black father of a son of that's raising a son, that there's a situation to where their son might not come home, and that's
As you know, Edgewood Church truly desires to understand our African American brothers and sisters. So I want to read to you, Jamone, a few statements and have you complete the sentence of what comes to your mind. Okay. And my hope in us doing this part of the interview is that those who are listening will hear your responses, and that it will just give them a small glimpse of the feelings that you have carried throughout your whole life. So my first statement that I want you to complete is, I wish my white friends would know that if they were living in my shoes, they would experience
extra interest from law enforcement. Well, they will when police get behind them, their life will be different if they were in my shoes, because they wouldn't. It doesn't matter if you're doing, what you're supposed to do. I had a cop pull me over with my son in the car, and it was a great teachable moment, because the cop literally pulled me over just to pull me over. His excuse was that I didn't put on my signal 100 feet before the stop sign. So this is the stuff that you deal with. You know what I mean? That's in my neighborhood, we call that bang bang, because that's a way to get you to, the officer, excuse me, officer, was I doing anything wrong? I know I wasn't, but obviously I'm gonna conduct myself in a manner that I'm not being disrespectful. I don't want it to be a power struggle. And especially with my son in the car with me, because he's watching everything. So it was an odd moment. Ended up coming back to the car, checking my license and everything, coming back to the car, giving me, but all that just to do what? You did all that just to do what? And it's frustrating, because all the crime that goes on in the city, and you waste your time for 30 minutes and pulling me over when we have multiple homicides, multiple shootings going on in the city of Rochester, and that's not going to stop. That's not going to stop. We know that's coming, so we're prepared for that to happen. So if someone to be in my shoes, I would say expect a little bit more special attention from law enforcement.
How about this one? One thing I wish my white friends would do if they truly cared for me is.
I would say just support more, and be open to the mindset that we have as Black Americans. Just be mindful. And the thing about it is, I don't want people to be fake. So if it's not something that's for you, then that's cool. But if you really want to be a part of the change, and you're really fed up about how things have played out, then I feel like, it's your responsibility to see and investigate, how can I support? You know what I mean? Everybody wants to talk about the game, but nobody actually want to be in the game.
Unpack a little bit for us. What does it mean to support? What would that look like? Tangible ways to support.
Support. Do more research on, how we got to this point, and how this has been going on for centuries, and what can you do to provide support for another race.
Last one I have for you. I am reminded the most that I'm not seen as an equal to my white friends when.
It will always be law enforcement. It will always be law enforcement. When I get up in the morning, I pride myself on doing what I need to do not to get pulled over. instead of just driving to work. I joke with my son sometimes, and we see a guy is driving, white guy driving, he run a light. I tell my son, if I did that, they would have had the helicopters out. It have had me on the floor, on the ground, and things of that nature. I just feel like there is a separation, but it's been proven. These are things. These are different instances that proves what I'm saying is authentic.
So let's this topic of law enforcement can be a very sticky one, especially among white people, right? Even in our own church, we have a handful of police officers and really good people, who just like you have a heart to do good in the neighborhood. So I want to dive a little deeper in this with you about law enforcement. As we're talking about we want to get this right and close that gap between just the tension. Do you think there is how can we get to a point? Will we ever get to a point where we can have police officers and Black men be respected in the same room, kind of thing?
Like right now, that possibly can support that is doing workshops, community workshops, where there are you have a panel of some police and some civilians, and you have there's open-ended discussion about how we can come together and support each other in growth. That's going to kind of be the bridge. There has to be a bridge, and it has to start somewhere. So you got to have some brave police officers to kind of dare to be different. Because that's a brother and sisterhood, and it's a lot. I know the ins and out. There's ins and out to everything. Everything that we do, there's ins and out to it, and I get it. But at the same time, if we want to put a dent in this situation, we want to slow down what's going on with the relationship, with the cops and Black males. That's just a start point.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jamon, for sharing your heart and your experiences, and just really to help us to have a better understanding of what you have gone through and certainly your feelings. So thank you for taking the time today.